Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Listen Up. And we have Cherrard returning, and I trust everybody had a great Valentine's Day. And even if you were alone at home and you just loved on yourself and did some self-care, that's a good day as well. How you doing today, Cherrard?
No complaints. How are you?
I am doing well. I am doing well. I'm very excited about our topic today, which is conquering intimidation. And so before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. All righty. Cherrard, I'm tossing the ball in your court, sir. You want to take it away?
Yeah, when you brought this topic up, I looked up some things about conquering intimidation, and then I got a couple pages that says there's 7 steps or 7 ways to conquer intimidation.
Okay.
You got to realize the person you're intimidated by is human. You can redefine who is powerful to you. Your ego might be creating shaky ground. There is no need to posture, but do stand tall. You must know your worth. Love is always the solution. Okay, this was 6. This was the 6. Yeah, so the 6 ways. Love is always the solution. They have, for each one, they have different, the explanations of each one. And, I can remember growing up and the way we handled intimidating individuals. You got your big brother or your big sister to go handle that for you. So, I'm not putting that out there, but there are ways to handle intimidating people in the workplace or wherever they may be. I don't know. Have you dealt with intimidating people?
Actually I have. Yes, I absolutely have. Not only in the workspace, but I want to go back to the part where you talked about as a child. Now, one thing that I learned, and I think I kind of dealt with things strategically. Even I found out now that even at a young age, I was strategic at how I dealt with things and people. And so I have no idea how this dropped in my spirit, but I saw people that had, I guess crowds of people, or they had a posse, if you will. I
Yeah.
saw them protected. So, again, it goes back to my storytelling that my dad said I was great at. So, I invented a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, and I only told the story a couple times and it went roaring through. So anytime somebody was trying to get at me, they would say, she got them big brothers in high school. And it worked. I had one, my younger brother was 7 years younger than me. So, I created this whole posse and ta-da! So that's how I conquered it.
You survived. Your story went viral before viral was invented.
I guess I was real convincing at telling that story, huh?
and just if touching on some of the how to stop feeling so intimidated by people, that's one of the articles. And it says the person you're intimidated by is human. And it says even your biggest idol or the head of the company you answer to or whoever it is that makes your knees shake is still just a person. They have relationship struggles, mommy, daddy issues, insecurities, things they're trying to prove, obstacles they're trying to overcome, fears they're battling, people they're hoping to impress, bills they have to pay, etc. And they all, this is verbatim, they all poop in the morning, floss their teeth at night, cry when they're alone, and do whatever else that makes them feel completely and utterly human. So basically, hey, just realizing this person you're afraid of is human, just like you, bleeds just like you, cries just like you, and have someone that intimidates them also. And that's what I learned in the workplace.
That's what you learned in the workplace? Because
your supervisor is really intimidated by their supervisor a lot of times. And, so when they're coming out on the floor being extra, over the top, it's because, hey, they may have just gotten reamed out by their supervisor. So it's like, so everybody is in hierarchy. It's a hierarchy. Everybody, at one point in their life had someone that intimidated them to the point where you were afraid to speak up for yourself, or just did whatever they told you to do. So.
And bringing it to the workplace, there's a movie on Netflix and it's called Citation. It is a phenomenal movie about a young girl, and she was actually, and not only just being bullied, but she was being sexually harassed by a renowned instructor. And so he was like sought out all over the world. And when he came to her school, of course, she and all the other students were just, starstruck by him.
Right.
But he took liking to her. And he just created a fiasco for her life. But the thing that I really loved about it was she didn't tuck tail and run. Even when her own boyfriend like threw her to the wolves, she stood tall.
Okay.
There was an advocate that came into the school and helped her work through it. But even through, like, they had I guess it was a trial or something, not like in the courts, but actually in the school system. And, he even came in there intimidating, like he was this man with all of this credibility behind him and these awards and all this everything. And then the young girl was like, she basically felt like a nobody, and then, because he was so popular, the students all, she had to walk through the hall, still go through her classes and stuff with the students snarling at her.
Okay.
But she stood tall through it. And as the evidence started coming out, because even it was something, because I loved her strength, because even around the table, the people around the table were like, because he twisted it on her and said that she was the one flirting with him for grades. And basically he told her that she wouldn't pass and that she wouldn't get the grade if she didn't sleep with him. And he went so far as to try to rape her. And so it was just a real big, huge thing. But what I loved about the story towards the end, I mean, as she started continue to stand up for herself, and the evidence was so overwhelming, and then that it prevailed, and so she became sort of like the face of, of that cause. And I just thought that was something. We talk about intimidation, because that goes on a lot in as far as men with stature and hierarchy, and I'm sure that it happens with women too. I don't know that it's talked about, but I've had a couple of bouts with that myself, and it's a very challenging place. But the one thing that I urge people to always do is to thyself be true. And just to yourself be true, hold true to your character, to your integrity, to your values. And and like you said, I think you took the sting out of it when you talked about those 6 ways of conquering intimidation, because when you realize that person is not bigger than life, that person is a person just like you. That's why I've never been starstruck. What gets me though is intelligence.
Yeah.
When somebody has, that's not, if you say starstruck, that's what star strikes me, or if that's the word. But that's how I get starstruck, is by somebody with intelligence, somebody that, has integrity and morals and has this character, and they stand by it no matter what. Because sometimes people will, they will bend on their, I want to say, I guess, their morals, and not stand true on it, depending on what the wind is. Because people will sometimes dangle things in front of you that they know that you want, like a promotion, or I know they say it's a lot. It happens a lot in Hollywood or what have you, but in actuality, it happens a lot with lay men as well. Lay men, lay women as well.
And then, like you said, when we do look at individuals, we look at the things they possess, the money that they have, the power that they may yield or whatever within that certain environment. And a lot of times, when I see folks that are starstruck, and they get to the point, well, I couldn't speak around such and such and such. They are basically just human beings with more material things than you have, or their faces just plastered all over the place. The funny thing is, it's like, when the guys talk about the women that they have these crushes on, like these celebrities, I would be so tongue tied. She's just a regular pretty face that's just known more, And as a matter of fact, a great story, Phyllis Hyman. they said she was, really depressed. She was lonely. She was looking for somebody, right? So she said she had a story one time. She was sitting in a bar and a guy came up there and was just talking to her. He was kicking to her, like, because he didn't know who she was off the rip. So they're talking and talking and talking and talking. She says she had a fantastic time, great conversation, and it all came to an end when he found out who she was. All of a sudden,
Wow.
he couldn't talk anymore. He was enamored by this fella's, oh my God. And she said it just felt so good just to have a normal conversation up until that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That's incredible. And then to hear of how her story, ended, of her committing suicide, and the story goes, it was because she was lonely or what have you. And, I just think that that's a great point, that people are people. People are human. When you talk about the dating arena as well, that's
Yeah.
another part. That's another space where some people are intimidated by folks. Let me tell you one time, and it's funny because you know, my story sort of goes as, as I was growing up and everything, I was you know, on the healthier side or the full figure side or whatever, and that was considered not to be so attractive or whatever. So it plays on your self-esteem, and so as I was like going through school and everything, I was really quiet. I'm an introvert actually, so I was really quiet. So I ran into somebody at a class reunion or what have you, and we just started talking, and I thought that I was the ugly duckling in school actually. And when he told me, he said, well, all the guys wanted to talk to you, but you were so quiet, nobody even knew how to approach you. It's like our own mind shift. So had I not been told, or those negative tapes in my brain as I was growing up, then I would have never felt in that space when I was in high school to felt like I was the ugly duckling. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it was a total paradigm shift for me to see him out or wherever. And he said, well, no, you just didn't hear what the guys were saying.
All
Like,
right.
no, I didn't. That's kind of the same thing. It's like, even in like going out in the dating arena or what have you. It's like you just never know. We can't assume things about people. We never, and I know sometimes, and something I talked to a couple of people about, it's like, you have to be approachable, smile, be engaging, let your personality shine. Because you're thinking that somebody's judging you. Some men like light-skinned women, some men like dark-skinned women, some men like, it's just it's we're all different. So but we have these tapes in our head and we think a certain way, and that's intimidating actually when you're out, like, well, why nobody's asking me to dance? I hear that with women all the time. Why nobody's asking me, but she's getting all the dances.
And you're right. We create these false narratives in our head, or these illusions. Hey, I'm too this. I'm not enough of that. I'm this and that. When in fact, all you just have to do is just be yourself. Just be who you are. If you're quiet, just be quiet. I've seen and I've witnessed a lot where people will go out and try to be something other than themselves. And it's like it never works because it doesn't last long, because that's not who you are naturally. So, and and being in the workplace or just being anywhere, just say you are intimidated by this certain kind of person, but you want to get, in a favorable light with them, you try to be something else. Just, that's a person. Whatever's meant to be yours will be yours. You don't have to change who you are to be something, to get something. If it's meant to be yours, it shall be yours. And I another article I pulled up was 7 steps to dealing with highly intimidating people.
Okay.
And one of the number one is mentally prepare yourself well ahead of time for interacting with the person who intimidates you. And some of the bullet points are: remind yourself there's really no such thing as equal footing, just different footing. You and the intimidating person cannot possibly have the exact same skills, personality, background, goals, or biology. You thus cannot make an accurate apples to apples assessment of who is best. Y'all are different, and tell yourself that for all the other person's accomplishments or abilities, they're human. Everyone makes mistakes. It's just that you might not be aware of all of their mistakes.
That's a good point.
Now, at this point right here, I had a supervisor when I worked at the Salvation Army. He says he doesn't make mistakes. And I had to just come back at him and said, no, you just get to clean up your mistakes before I use them. That's the difference between, you know, somebody up here and somebody down here. When this person screws up, I can either blame the person up under me, or I can clean it up myself so that it looks like, oh, I'm all good. You know, I don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
And when I say this man had the fear of God, you know, in all these people, it was like, oh, here he comes, here he comes. It's like, he's a regular dude, you know. And the funny thing was he and I got along so well because he could not speak to me the way he spoke to everyone else.
He respected you. He gave you a level of respect that nobody else commanded, but you did.
It's like, yo, you know, and like I said, they're human. I'm human. This is only a job. So my thing is, I came into this job as a man. I'm gonna leave as a man. So I'm not gonna let you say anything to me that I wouldn't let the average person out there say to me on the street. And that's just been the way, that's how I handle intimidating folks in the workplace. I'm just who I am. You know, you shake, and here's another thing. When two men are shaking hands, this is what I found with younger men. When I shake a young man's hand and he shakes his hand and he gives me his fingers as opposed to his palm, and we lock in and he gives me some force back, you see an individual that just made himself, he lowered himself or humbled himself. And you don't even know who I am, homie. You're supposed to look me in my eye. And this is what I taught my son and everything. Bruh, when you engage another man, you look him in his eye, and whatever force he gives you on that handshake, you give it back. Don't let him intimidate you by his physical or outwardly appearance, because a lot of times these same dudes may have the same insecurities that you have. And so that's what I find with young men. They oh my God, this is such and such. No, that's just a person. You know what I'm saying? So when I shake hands with you, hey, give me your whole hand. Force behind it. Let me know, you know, okay, yeah, I'm a man about mine, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes in whatever it is I do. That's what I tell young men.
And see, that's another thing that's lost too, Cherrard. People don't pass on the stories and teach. So a lot of people are out here just winging it because they haven't been taught. And one thing that, you know, that I like what you said about preparing yourself is proper preparation prevents poor performance. Okay. And so I think that's another thing. When you're out winging it, you're already feeling a little bit insecure because you really don't know the material or what's happening. Like, you know, I have a little surprise. See, when somebody drops good nuggets into my life, I go and I act on it. I execute it. You talked about this last week, right? I admit it. No, I'm constantly trying to become better. Not trying to, but becoming better. And I know that by reading. So I picked it up. You said it was an easy read. You said the 4 agreements. I'm always looking for wisdom in my life. So as soon as we got done with the podcast, I found it. And I mean, it was like for pennies. So I was like, yes, this goes into my library. Again, I don't lend my books.
Oh, you know what?
I write in them, and then you know what though? Sometimes when I find a good book, I'll buy a couple copies of it or what have you, and then I'll put it up, and then the situation will come where it'll be a good gift for somebody, and I always write in them. So my books are not good for resale because they're collector's items, I guess, after a while. But I was like, yep, that's in my pile of check off. I got that book. It's for my to-dos because, you know, what I found, and then what we have to do is like sometimes we get angry with our parents for not teaching us certain things. And I think one of the things that I've learned to do is to understand that my parents taught me as much as they could from what they were taught, and the rest then becomes my responsibility to teach myself and to get around people that are, that don't mind sewing into you or allowing you to stand on their shoulders so that you can become better and greater. And so healthy, secure people. And that's why I want us to do, the show that we talked about, or the podcast about healing. I did some research myself, about healthy people versus broken people versus toxic people. And when you talk about people that are, that intentionally, because there are people that intentionally intimidate other people. And, we talked about narcissistic people on a podcast before, but what I'm even learning even more is that, oftentimes this is an eye-opening experience for me. People that are overbearing and come at you in an intimidating fashion, it's because they are like very, very insecure themselves.
I'm just writing this down about intentional intimidation. Is that like, I'm thinking that's for a lot of people that may just be a defense mechanism. Before there's the quote is I remember I heard my brother say it, years ago, but he flipped it around. Says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But then my brother was like, no, do unto others before they do unto you. And,
Wow.
and that's basically like his hood logic, hey, if you think they coming at you, hey, get at them first. And that's what people that I think people that have those insecurities, they try to make themselves bigger than life itself, so that it's a defensive mechanism. So, you said something earlier too about people winging it. It's not winging it. And number 2 says, plan out what you want to say. The feeling of intimidation can make you mentally choke, leaving you at loss for words that make you feel even worse. You don't have to come up with a script. You'll repeat word for word, especially because you have to respond naturally to whatever the person says back. But you can identify the main points you want to bring up and practice saying these in a few different ways. So, whenever I've had to get up and speak in front of people in class, I've always found that when I spoke on something that I knew about, confidence just flowed. It just, because public speaking is intimidating. That's one of the biggest fears of people. But other than death, public speaking is a fear of a lot of folks. You'll get this talkative individual that'll come around you and talk your head off, put a mic in front of them in a crowd, and it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. And that's generally how I was. It's like, hey, but when you give me something to talk about that I know at that time that I knew, man, hey, and I'll go over my time. You had to be like, hey, remember you had 10 minutes, and I would go. But so yeah, that's another one. Plan out what you want to say, so you don't fumble over your words.
Right. It instills confidence. And I think that's where it instills confidence. So that's great. I mean, go ahead. You said how many? You had more.
It's 7, but I'll break it down. And it says practice with others. That's number 3. And it says maybe the person at the drive-through didn't put the extra pickles on your sandwich. Say so. If you can be assertive in those little situations, you'll reassure yourself you can stand up for yourself. And I do know some people that would just get run over, and it's like, no, speak up for yourself, but they won't. That's just not in their makeup. And those people to me are scary, because that's a lot of compounded, frustrations of being, ran over, and one day they become ticking time bombs.
Exactly. I was gonna say that. That's a part of my studies into brokenness. And as something broke them, and then they don't feel like they can like their voice matters or their voice counts, or like you said, they like extra pickles, or they don't want pickles, but they'll get the sandwich and they'll take the pickles off, and I mean, just certain things to accommodate. And I think and appease everybody. People pleasing is what it's called. And I think, I mean, as we're talking, there's just a lot of episodes that are like running through my head, because what I'm finding out, even in my own experience, is that there's a lot of brokenness, because oftentimes broken people, or people that have been broken, actually are raising other people or in relationships with other people, and hurting people hurt other people.
And Frederick Douglass said something like, it's easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men. So,
Oh,
you know, and you were, and I was thinking about that when you were talking about the family and how your family raises you with what they know. We get a foundation from them, you know, then we must build on that foundation. But oftentimes we see that families don't give you a strong foundation a lot of times, and you're out here winging it, as we say. And so, you know, it, like my dad, you know, and I laugh because I was so rebellious growing up. When not growing up, I got to a point where I got into high school, and I'm like, oh, man, you know, I got some girls liking me, man. I don't gotta hear you, man. I done had a couple fights and stuff. I don't have to. And when I started messing up after high school, when I started messing up and going down the wrong path, you know, fortunately, I didn't get into serious trouble to where it destroyed me. But what made me really think about what I was doing was the foundation my parents had given me. I knew right from wrong. I knew this. My dad didn't raise me to do this. My mom didn't raise me to do that. Why am I doing it? Why am I accepting this as, yo, this is cool to do? And it's not. And it was just basically me fitting in with the crowd. You know, and when I look at myself now, I don't hang with a crowd.
Right.
You know, so I've learned to become myself. And being myself means I got to be by myself. Hey, so be it.
It's funny that you said that you were a rebellious child. Because I was a rebellious child, but I also was I'm very literal. And I didn't understand that until later on in my years, that I understood that I'm very literal. And so when you have a literal conscious child, man, I mean, can you imagine what that
Oh, you're a
life was
smart mama.
growing up?
Yeah.
Oh, I was, and
Yeah.
I always thought that, like, people don't understand me. Like, I'm not trying to be like, this is exactly what it is, you know.
It's black and white to me. It's no
It
gray.
is. And people, I say, but if they say this is blue, it's blue. Why are you trying to tell me that it's purple or something? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. And it's, you know what, and I've run into some people that were actually literal as well, but it's like you're part of the minority for real when you are just literal. And it's nerve-wracking for some people, and it was nerve-wracking for me until I really understood what it was. And somebody pointed it out to me, a friend of mine pointed it out to me before, and I was like, that's what it is. That's why I'm misunderstood, or that's why this, you know. And when you talk about running with the crowd, I can remember a friend of mine's, we skipped school, high school, and we went to a mall that had a big hill, and everybody held hands, and this is how I say I'm not a part of it's hard for me to be a part of the crowd, you know. So we said on 3, we're gonna run down this hill together. We're gonna hold hands and run down this hill. And so when they said, I think it was like at 2, I was like, this is not a good idea. It's a truck stop at the bottom of this hill. But you know how to peer pressure, you don't want to, you know, like, you don't want to stop now. But I just couldn't do it. I let go of the hands, and they went running down the hill. And one of the girls, she hit the bottom, and I remember she flipped over, and I was so scared. But I was like, oh my God, we didn't kill her. So I'm thinking, but again, I just was like, I was the rebel in the crowd. I couldn't follow along with the crowd, even though everybody else thought it was a good idea. I said, this is not a good idea. And I couldn't do it.
Not me.
It. Right. So I think really, again, going back to the topic of conquering intimidation, I love the points that you brought to the table, as far as, you know, again, to thyself be true, and really understanding that, you know, we all are human, made of flesh and blood, no matter what. And it's just a lot of things that we can overcome if we just face it. I think that's the part of it, facing it, not sweeping it under the rug. Even when we talk about relationships and we talk about dating, um, I just think, again, just learning who you are and learning to love yourself, doing a lot of self-care, self-discovery, again, you know and also one of the things that's helped me overcome many, many challenges is positive affirmations, and hearing me say to myself, you know, talk to myself about my worth and build myself up. And, so I just think that's daily, we're talking about, um, meditation. I meditate because I need to bring my mind back to center. I need to, really not hear all the chatter that's going on, because you never want the world to define who you are or your worth.
Yes. And it's all a mental thing. It starts out mentally first. Anything in life that was ever created started out mentally. So fear is a creation of something mentally,
Mm-hmm.
a mental rather. Um, one of the things, another one is offer the right body language when you're talking to intimidating people. And it says, standing proud and tall communicates to the intimidating person that you can't be pushed around, that you're sure of yourself, but to as much for you as for them, but it's as much for you as for them. A social psychologist, she said, good posture actually can create the feeling of confidence, to you, to the confidence you hope to portray. So slouching down, that shows, I'm not confident, oh well, you can just do whatever you want to say or whatever you want to. But when you stand up and you push your shoulders back and you give that eye-to-eye contact, all of a sudden now people receive you differently, and they come at you differently, because it's like, no, okay, the BS we was going to come at him or her with, let's change that plan, because she looks like, or he looks like he's ready for that and ready to push back. Let's offer it a different way.
That's a excellent point. An excellent point. People choose the low hanging fruit. People choose the easy targets. They even talked to us about that when we went through self defense courses.
Yep.
That you have to always be aware of your surroundings, but the same thing, you always have to be aware of what you are projecting. What are you presenting? And bullies, people that intimidate intentionally, they look for that. One of the things that I had to stop doing, and it's so funny because, people sometimes would think that because I do a lot of things alone, people that think you don't have family or don't have people that have your back, they'll think, or they'll try to come at you as if you're a target as well. So go ahead.
Sometimes, and to add on to that point, sometimes we unintentionally make ourselves a target by how we walk, by being scary of things that we shouldn't be afraid of, and like you in self-defense class, it's not walking around like I'm the baddest person on the planet. It's just I'm walking around, I'm sure of who I am. I'm confident in the abilities I have to defend myself. And at the same time, I am going to make sure that my surroundings, I try not to, if I see 20 dudes at the gas station standing in there, it's not intimidation that I'm not going over there. It's just that, why even put myself in a situation to where I may have to defend myself?
Very true. So true.
So it's like, I think I'll just go ahead and bypass on this gas station right here.
Absolutely. Though that's a part of what we taught in self-defense, is that, don't put yourself in vulnerable situations. I mean, it's not that you're being, cowardly or anything like that, but who do you have anything to prove to, when you put yourself into a situation like that, and then, I don't do gas stations at nighttime. I don't think that's smart, for women at night or anything like that, but also being too busy. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes people will grab their coat, run out, they got their cell phone on their hand, they got their purse hanging off their shoulder. You look like a target because you're not being aware. but you zip your coat up, you know, whatever, don't have your scarf hanging. It's just certain things that you really have to do in order to make yourself not a mark or a target, because you will be. And being too busy is a mark, not only, you know, when you're going out in public, but being too busy is also a mark when you're going back to the dating arena. If you're so busy, you're not paying attention. And this was so key. This is something, you know, and I just love these, the different segments that we bring, because it gives me an opportunity to research and educate myself on some things that I not paid attention to before. But some of the relationship experts, you know, they're talking about checklists and talking about questions and talking about, you know, the blazing red flags, like, you know, asking questions, and the response is not just the fact that you're asking questions, but also waiting for a response. You know, for one of the things that was like, and it's like it was like a light bulb came on. It was like, if you're asking somebody that you're dating questions and they have a problem with answering those questions, then that's a problem. But a lot of times people will turn it around on you, and they'll make it a joke or make it something humorous, or, you know, again, we talked about it on the last podcast about people not being honest. Well, all of those are things we have to pay attention to. And like, man, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm tired. All the things that you have to pay attention to in order to be healthy and in order to be in a healthy space. But if you want the result, it really does take work. It takes work on yourself.
And then another point is, you can redefine who is powerful to you. So and he said, in the past, I idolized quite a few powerful people who I felt so intimidated to meet. But then upon meeting and interacting with them, I shockingly found that they were not as kind-hearted as I had imagined. Ooh, it's all love. It's all love. We all have our own demons to battle. But after enough of these experiences, I started to question the power I so quickly assigned to those who intimidated. I gave them the power already to intimidate me, and they may not even notice who I am off the rip. Yeah. Or they may even see me as intimidating or whatever. You just never know, because, you know, I've been told, hey, you don't look like you're approachable.
They've told you you don't look approachable?
Yeah, and sometimes I can catch myself with a look on my face, but I'm in deep thought so much, you know, and I know I have to change some of that, because I am. It's, you know, I'll get to thinking about something and figuring something out, and this might be my look. I'm not frowning at you. It's just I'm thinking about something. You know,
woo, Cherrard, you scared me.
You know, and it's like, wow, no, it's really not meant to be that way at all. It's just me. I'm a constant thinker. I overanalyze something. I will overanalyze something to death. Like, you know, I know it said this, but, you know, the possibilities of A, B, and C happening, and then A, B, and C has a subset of 1, 2, 3, and I'll do that. So yeah.
So that's a good point. Maybe that's the podcast too, because I thought I was the only one that did that. I will analyze something to the last morsel. And then, you know, I had a situation even over the weekend, and I was talking to my daughter about it, and she was like, Ma, they, you know, as soon as the situation was over, everybody forgot about it but you. You're still sitting here like, I could have did that differently. I should have thought about this first. I should have did this ahead of time. And she's like, Ma, I really think you're good.
and that's me. It's like, you know what? I should not have let him or her get away with saying this and that. You know, it was like, I should have just right off the rip, and I didn't. Yeah. You know, I didn't. It's just like, but then everybody else was like you. Why are you mulling over something that really is no big deal?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. You know, but that's a good point. But again, that's all a part of getting to know yourself and being true to yourself and working on the things that you need to work on with yourself. You know, there's a book that I talk about a lot. I'm doing my second read on it, which is Priscilla Shire's. I think it's Priscilla Shire's. It is A Jewel in His Crown. And okay. And that's for the, you know, for the ladies, because we have to understand what our worth is. Because if you don't know your worth, you're going to keep falling for things over and over again and returning to the same toxic relationships and allowing people to treat you less than you deserve. And it sometimes is, and then we're so hard on ourselves. Like we can be the hardest on ourselves, the hardest critic on ourselves. You're not, you don't match up, you don't this, you don't that. But what about just understanding your beautiful blueprint as yourself, and that there's only one? Yeah, you're unique, and you're one of a kind.
And that's funny that you speak on that, because the next one is your ego might be creating shaky ground.
When you said that, I want to understand that a little bit more. Help me get that one, because that went over my head.
Now he says, I used to think I was egoless because I felt insecure. So where's the ego there? But it is there. Ego is just involved in insecurity. Ego is just as involved in insecurity as it is in arrogance. You're worried about how the world is perceiving you. You're fearing people. You're fearing people. You're fearing people will spot your imperfections. You're attached to and driven by the opinions of others. Now, when you read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, it'll talk about the pain bodies, the ego. And people tell you, yo, you got to get rid of that ego. You got to destroy that ego. No. You don't get rid of your ego. You control your ego. You watch your ego. You're the one that determines how much impact your ego has over you. So you become the watcher. It's okay to get mad at people, right? It's what you do once you get mad that can be judged, bad or good. Did you piss me off and I punched you in the face, or did you piss me off and I just said, okay, all right, I'm out of here. So your ego needs to be fed some type of drama. Don't destroy your ego. Your ego is who you are. And your ego is good too, because hey, your ego can get to the point where you might see that intimidating person. They might try to intimidate you, but your ego is like, nah, we ain't taking this.
Okay.
So your ego is whatever you choose it to be. So like I said, if you're attached to things, people's opinions about you, then you will see a lower form of yourself. But if your ego is one that wants you to stand proud because, hey, I just finished college. I'm smart. I just, built this whole elaborate setup by myself. I have skills. You know your worth. Your ego is what is attached to knowing your worth. And it's not a bad thing. So they say a lot of times, what is confidence plus arrogance equals ignorance. But your ego, if you are in control of it, you determine how much of this you teeter toward arrogance or just teeter towards confidence. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's your ego it can be a great thing for you, because your ego, let's take Muhammad Ali, let's take Michael Jordan, let's take all the greats. They had egos. I'm not losing. So it's hey, if you don't have confidence in yourself, who will?
Their confidence drove them. And yes, so yeah, that's good. That's really good.
So an ego is not bad, and you don't want to destroy your ego, because your ego fuels you through situations. A lot of times you don't even think you have the ability to get through. You will yourself through. That's the ego saying, yo, I ain't losing. I'm not losing.
I'm not losing. And that acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. That's some good stuff.
And I wish ladies would learn to take their power back too. Just say you got that kind of man that's ordering your food for you. Like you said, I don't eat pickles, so I'll just take them off instead of saying I don't eat them. So when you're on that date with that dude that says, I'm gonna order for you, if that's not what you want, say, no, I got this. I know what I want to eat. I don't need you to, or you even have men, hey, that tell you, hey, you need to eat this because you're a little bit overweight. So I'm gonna make sure you eat right.
Like, see, and that's that part again that we talked about last time. You knew you was gonna stir me, huh? That part about getting to know the person and getting to know their love language and getting to know, because that's like, I mean, like right off the rip, you there's some deal breakers right off the rip. If I'm not free to be who I am, then ladies, that's a deal breaker. Not just to have somebody on your to have somebody, to say this is mine. That's what I think we were talking about before about settling. And
Yeah.
when you really know yourself and learn, I mean, I've learned how to, in my single time, date myself, take care of myself, do the things that I like to do. Because honestly and truly, if you don't sometimes, if you keep going from bad relationship or toxic relationship to toxic relationship, you have to stop and look and see what it is that you're doing, what it is that, that you're not, maybe not even doing correctly. Maybe you're not voicing things up front. Maybe you're not getting to know that person right off the rip, and you're not seeing those issues that they carry, because people can only fake it for a certain amount of time. The movie The Ugly Truth was really funny because the girl wanted the doctor, and in that her male friend was teaching her what this man wanted as far as his ego and everything. So she popped in, extra fluffy hair, and she he was feeding her, and this was tickled me because he was feeding her and she couldn't stand it.
Wow.
But she was just doing it to please him. And then, towards the end, she finally said, wait, this is not me. I don't like these heels. I don't like this hair. I don't like, and please don't feed me. I am not a child. He was like, but I liked all the things that you were. She was like, yeah, but you don't like who I am, who I really am. So it's just funny that it's like we have all these false notions or whatever. And I think it would be so much easier if we would all just be who we are.
And you said something earlier about being intimidated in relationships, and you have people that are in relationships where they shouldn't be intimate with that individual on that level. They should just be friends or not friends at all. And then I think some of that is caused by you're intimidated by loneliness. You don't want to be alone. It's like, oh man, I'll settle for any warm body. I don't care what it is. I'll take this warm body. I just don't want to be in this house alone. I just don't want to be in this home alone. And you'll find people overlooking the obvious red flags just to have somebody and being intimidated by loneliness.
Having that wrong person though, Cherrard, that's creating a hell in all of itself.
Oh yeah, man, you're gonna create so many different other situations that, oh my God, you're gonna need a different doctor for every situation that you created, because it's like, man, I just created this self-induced hell.
Yes. Oh
And
yes.
and we've all done it. We've all, for whatever reason, we've all done it.
Right. And then the other thing in that point though, when you do that, then you're not freeing up the space for that person that is compatible with you. Like I said, not in nobody's perfect, but that perfect person for you. You're not allowing that space. And then in the meantime, again, I keep going back to self, I guess, because I've been in this self-discovery mode, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know that in the self-discovery part, you find a whole lot of things there that you did not know, that you were just walking around people pleasing other people. And you're like, wow, I didn't develop, I love to write. I didn't develop my writing skills. I didn't develop this because I'm too busy trying to please other people. But it's nothing wrong with taking the time out and the space out to get to know who you are. And then when you come back to, dating or whatever it is, you now come back a whole person. And you can identify toxicity on the other side now. Like my antennas are so sharp right now, even with like in the workplace or even just paying attention, and you start kind of honing those skills of like, okay, wait, that's a red flag right there. I can't ask a question, or wait, he just turned that around on me. Wait a minute, my voice counts. Wait a minute, what is my love languages? What are my love languages? Do I even know? How am I expect somebody else to know if I don't even know?
So we'll allow some people, we'll allow people to create our image.
Yeah.
Because like you watch these plastic surgeons and then you look at their wives, like, man, okay, you just created a whole new person. Because
whole new person.
And it's like, wouldn't it be just much simpler to just go get someone that looked like that or act like that? Wouldn't it be simpler to just, it's like I said, you're trying to take somebody, I like the physical appearance except for the ears. We're gonna change the ears. make the lips a little thicker. That we can do away with that nose to us. Hey, let's bleach the skin too, because like a little bit too dark for me. Now I love you.
You didn't erase the whole person, the essence of the person.
You have spent all this bread, all this money, all this time, all this effort into changing that person when you could have just very simply just went out and looked for that type of individual.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing though too, they do that a lot in Hollywood, even in the music industry. What I thought was a story that played out in front of us was, Whitney Houston. How they created this princess type person.
Larger than life princess, yeah.
Exactly, bigger than life. They created her, and then when she was tired of that and she wanted to be who she was, she said, I'm the girl from the ghetto, I'm the girl from, that this is what I like, and she couldn't be who she liked, and I think she couldn't be herself. And I think that's so hard when you have to suppress who you really are, because it can be, again, like I said, so beautiful when you're free to be who you are.
And so many people do it. It's look, how many people you think are just sitting here right now in a relationship, in a job, just surviving? Because this is just it's not what I want to do, but what I feel is necessary. Or, I'm sitting in a relationship with this man or this woman and I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
But they supply me with so many of the material things I require or I love. I don't want to leave. But you're miserable though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like misery.
I know.
Happiness.
I know. What got me and really, really drilled it home for me is when I realized that your birth date and the dash in between is your life, and then your, everybody's, death date or expiration date. You only have a certain amount of days in between. I think when we think about it like that, we only have a certain amount of days in between. Now, what do you want to do with those days in between? Do you really want to stay somewhere just because of the material? Or do you want to stay? I mean, and it's your own personal choice, no judgment. But that just made it crystal clear to me when I was in, again, my marriage, that this is not it. I cannot do this.
You know
what I'm saying?
Question is, what did you do with your dash?
What did you do with your, look at that. What did you do with your dash?
And it's like, and you just said it, it's like, man, I appeased everybody else and never pleased myself.
Never pleased myself. So at the end of it, I think it was in Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Effective People. He said, begin with the end in mind. And as we start to wrap up, I wanted to just mention this. There was, a little exercise that he does, and he says, close your eyes and imagine yourself driving down the road, and the breeze, it's a beautiful breeze out. It's the birds are singing. It's a warm sun. It's beaming on your face. And you pull up and you go down this long path and you pull up to a parking lot and you realize it's a church. And, you see all these cars out, you find a space, you walk in. And when you get there, you see people that you know to your left, people that you know to the right. You realize that you're at a funeral and it's yours. What are those people saying about you? What was your life about? Now you get to rewind that and you get to paint that story. And I say every day is a blank canvas. You get to decide what colors you put on that canvas. Whether you put bright oranges, fire engine reds, whether you put, sunshine yellow, or whether you allow that canvas to be dark, whether you allow that canvas to be, all dark colors or what have you. So, that's it. I just, wanted to, leave everybody with the thought or the notion that, basically you have a choice. You have a decision. And if you don't make a decision, you're still making a decision. And your decision is to let somebody else decide for you. So it's like, make the decision. Did you have something you wanted to leave us with today, Cherrard?
No, I mean, I was just going in mind with what did you do with your dash? And then the dash is the time between your birth and death date. So you just said, hey, let people decide for them. or are you going to take control of your life and decide for yourself? So what did you do with your dash?
What did you do with your dash? Wow, Cherrard, we go deep. I love it. Just want to let everybody know, stay fearless. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back shortly. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Bye for now.